Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation of the Colibri project. Colibri means collaboration and innovation for better personalized and IT supported teaching, and it was one of the first Erasmus Plus strategic partnerships, so it started in 2014 and will finish this year. My name is Jens Pedersen. I'm coordinator of the project and also associate professor at Aalborg University. And this presentation is really an exception because usually I would never make such a long video because you always make mistakes and say stupid things, but this will just be an straight recording. So the consortium in the Colibri project is consisting of 7 universities, 2 companies and 1 governmental organization, and that is the one from Greece. So as you can see from the map, we are basically all over Europe. And the vision in Colibri is to tackle one of the challenges we see today, or some of the challenges we see, which is an increasing number of students. And that also means an increasing fraction of young people going to university. And that's giving us a challenge because we are having a larger student diversity. So we are seeing students coming with different cultural background, different backgrounds in general, and coming with different learning styles and maybe also with different ambitions. And in order to tackle this, we need to develop new and innovative teaching methods, and we need to do personalized teaching. And of course, when saying that, we also need to use some of the new technologies available. So what we want is that we want to educate, even when students come with these different backgrounds, we need to make sure that the students are ready for the labor market, that they're able to collaborate across nationalities, cultures, and technical disciplines. And in the project here, we do this by institutions working together and experimenting on joint learning activities. And that's also why we have developed the Colibri course that I will tell you a little bit about later. So the overall idea of the Colibri is to not only have a systemic impact on the participants, but we really want to have a systemic and lasting impact, of course, within the involved institutions, but also beyond. So what we are doing is that we are implementing new and innovative teaching as joint learning activities. So we are basically able to test out the methods we use on a large variety of students. That's also why we have the Colibri course, which is a living lab with students from the different universities. And this course is giving on a topic or theme, which we call future internet opportunities, but it's really cross-disciplinary. So we have students from business, from engineering, students working with entrepreneurship, telecommunications, and computer science. And we've had quite a bit of different students over the 3 years. So as I said, we are having a 3-year project. And every year we are repeating the cycle here. So we have first a preparation phase, then we develop our teaching, let's say, strategies and materials. And then we carry out the course and the actual teaching during the spring semester, and we spent the summer on evaluation and dissemination. And there are some details about the course here, but I will explain it in more details in later. So we have the course structure, and this is the course structure from 2016, because this is where we have evaluated the results from, and we made it almost the same, but with some differences in 2017. But the general structure is that we have a virtual kickoff, which is taking place in February. Then the students are working on modules. So let's say it's more or less online courses or blended courses. Then they meet physically in the Midway seminar, which is taking place in April. So the virtual kickoff is virtual. The Midway seminar is actually a seminar where the students and teachers meet for 5 days. Here we finish the courses and start up the project work. And then we have the project work with the virtual collaboration taking place from April till July, where again we have a seminar, which is again a 5-day seminar, where we finish with exams on the last day. We're offering a number of course modules, and the titles are here. I don't think they're so important in the presentation, so I'll skip it. But the idea is that each student will follow all 10 modules at the introductory level. Then they will choose 4 basic modules to follow, and of these 4 basic modules, they will follow 2 advanced modules. And as you can see here, it's at the workload. It's not because it's so much workload even for the advanced modules, but it does allow for a personalized path. And I will also get back to the personalization a bit. So here explained in a different way. So for each student, they have first the introductory, then the select for basic, then the select to advanced. The way we use teaching in general, we can say, is by personalization, by having some pre-module test and providing or linking to preliminary teaching material. So basically, we want the students to come with the background they have, and we are able to adapt to that. In practice, it has proved to be a little bit challenging with the diversity that we have, because the students are really different. So we need to have this at some assumptions behind it for it to work. Then we are experimenting with new ways of conducting the courses and the projects. For example, we are using a lot of short video lectures with small assignments or small quizzes in between. We are using mini projects in the courses, and then we are having the project work, which is really where the students are working across disciplines, across nationalities on the proposals proposed by the companies. We also have a teacher training seminar in the preparation phase, where the teachers are meeting and discussing and getting training on how to actually carry out this. So as you can see here, we have the virtual kickoff, which is really having the purpose of getting to know each other. So we have been blending here with some videos that are pre-recorded and by some activities which have really taken place in real time. But sitting in 7 different or 10 different locations and doing things together is challenging, no matter which technologies we're using. So we mix this pre-recorded with the real time. Then in the courses, as I said, we experiment with new ways of conducting the courses and the project. So in the second year, what we've mainly been focusing on is, first of all, to make very, very clear instructions and clearly marked endings of each module, and we have made progression tracking to ensure an overview of task and status. Because with this individualized approach, it's even more important that each student knows exactly what he or she is expected to do, and that is not so well supported in the learning management systems we've been using. We're using self-assessment and preliminary material for the basic modules, meaning that the students are taking some preliminary quiz in order to assess where he or she can start, and then we have some material available that he or she can study if needed in order to get to the starting level. Then we're using a lot of these short videos and quizzes to keep the students active. And in the second year, we used the videos on YouTube and the quizzes in Moodle. Here in the last year, we have also been experimenting with doing this in a more, let's say, interactive way or more integrated way, so that the quizzes will actually pop up when the students are watching the videos, so they don't have to switch the environment. We're using literature and assignments. We're having Q&A forums. That didn't work so well, actually, so it's very hard to get students to use it. So here in the last year, we changed to use a completely different platform for getting this kind of interaction. Then we have peer learning in the advanced modules. Actually, on the very first year, we also had peer learning in the basic modules, but it turned out to be too much, so that every student had to do this 4 courses with peer learning within what is just 1 course in the semester for them was really challenging. So we have tried to make it a bit bigger in the advanced modules, but then not have too much of it. The groups were formed from the beginning of the course, and we have asked the students, or together with the students, we have asked them to coordinate how they choose their modules to be sure that all groups are well prepared for the projects to work on. So some examples of what we have been doing in the module work is that we have really been using these quizzes in Moodle that you can see here. We have been using a podcast, and we have been using video lectures and experimenting with different ways of doing video lectures. The one here with Marite Kirikova from Riga is made in a very professional studio, and I must say that after having experimented with it, I'm rather to a quick and dirty approach, because at some point you will want to re-record the video lecture, you will change the content and so on, and then using all the work by going to the studio is quite hard to do it, to redo it. So an example of what an introductory module could look like, remember that it's just a 1 hour workload. So it could be that they start being presenting for the learning objectives, then we have a short series of videos and quizzes, and there can be some additional literature, and then at the end of this session there is a final quiz, so the student knows exactly when he finished that particular introductory module. And not only the student knows it, we can also see it from the back panel, so to speak, in Moodle. Then we have here an example of a basic module, and we see that now there is a bit more to it. So we have still the learning objectives, which are important because they fit with the quiz. Then we have the pre-module test and the pre-module materials. So a lot of personalization comes in here. We have again the videos and quizzes and the scientific article, but usually there will be some kind of exercise as well. We have not made this as a peer exercise because the peer exercise requires more coordination between the students, and we found out during the first year that that was quite hard for them. So this is really an exercise that's usually just corrected by the teacher. So there is just one deadline. And then we also have the Q&A forum for discussions and questions, which is available throughout the duration of the module. I would say that this Q&A forums, it's not something that has been used so much, though, unfortunately. We also have the advanced modules here, and again, you see that some of the elements are the same. Still have the learning objectives, the final quiz, the video quiz thing, the scientific articles, but then we have added some additional, let's say, components or elements. So there will usually be some kind of, there can be a group exercise, and there can be assignments which are a bit larger than for the basic and introductory. And then usually there will be some kind of peer review, where, for example, the students are submitting an assignment, and then they are reviewing that assignment of their peers. Our experience with it was not so good the first year. It was better the second year, and the third year it was okay, but it's still quite challenging because it requires that the students stick to the first deadline so that they submit it on time, that the teacher is actually aware of how to set it up correctly so that it switches between the different phases, and that the students also are aware about how to do the reviews. And for some students, I think having to grade their peers was quite a different way of working. So that was a bit about the courses. Then the teaching methods and the projects. The idea is that we are working with, first of all, with real-world problems proposed by the companies. And in our case, we have been working with cases proposed by the companies who is actually part of the consortium. So the three non-universities have come up with project proposals. So usually we have had 7 or 8 groups, each with 3 to 4 students from different universities. So each group has, let's say, 4 students, then they are from 4 different universities. Each group is then assigned 1 academic supervisor and 1 company contact to help with the project. Again, we try to have clear learning objectives, so they know exactly what they will be examined on, and that's especially important in this multicultural and environment where the students have different backgrounds. So some of them will be quite familiar with problem-based group work, and some for them it will be completely new. So we try to be very clear on what is expected from the students. It's starting in the midway seminar in April, and it ends in the project seminar in July. And in between there is this virtual collaboration phase. And it's supported by the activities we have in the midway seminar. So the introduction to problem-based project work and collaboration. And we also have an introduction to collaboration tool. And of course, it's also supported by the courses they have been following, or the course modules they have been following in the first part of the course. So the idea is that we have at least tried to design it so what we are teaching in the modules is fitting well with the problems they have to solve afterwards. The project work as such is self-organized, so the students are organizing their meeting and their schedules themselves, but we support it, and I would say that we have been supporting it more and more during the 2 years. So in the beginning, the students were quite on their own to work on it, In the second year, we were more structured with the number of supervisor meetings and meeting templates, for example. And in the last year, we have actually been even more precise about our requirements and helping them to create a structure, because we found that they needed, I think, both because the students are coming from so different backgrounds, for practical reasons because the students have different schedules, so it can be hard for them to find some time where all of them are available, for example, because they have exams at different times. So when the Danish students are stressed, the Spanish students have time, and when the German students are busy with their exams, then it might be that the students from other countries have time. So we try to help them organize themselves even in these conditions. And of course, it's also challenging that it's virtual collaboration and that the tools don't always work as nice as we would like them to. An example of a project, and the time is running here, so I will not say too much about it, but this is just to give an idea of what could such a project be. Is this about a bike sharing platform? And I will just leave it here. So if you have time when you're watching the presentation, you can pause it here for maybe 10 seconds, or you can just wait when I'm talking, and then have an idea of what is the abstraction level, and what is the kind of problems we're asking them to do. But to be honest, the projects are also quite diverse. So some are quite open. I think this one is one of the more open ones, and some are really more closed and narrow. But it was important for us to find some real problems that the companies also have. So the teaching methods during the project work is really a mix of many things, and we try to support the students in doing this and in selecting what is relevant for them. But the starting point is the problem from the company, and the end point is that in the last seminar, the students will give a presentation, and they also have to submit the presentation, and they also have to submit a learning reflection report where they are describing what they learned during the whole course, so both during the modules and during the project work. And they are presenting this on the last day as the exam. And the way the exam is conducted is that the students are presenting the project. So each group will be presenting for around half an hour. Then there will be questions from the teachers. And it's also possible for other students to ask questions. And the exam is a pass-fail exam. And all the students are getting 5 ECTS of credits for doing the work. I will not go in detail with this slide, but I just left it here so you can see a bit more about what is happening in the seminars. So in the midway seminar, again, the focus is on finishing the modules and on preparing the students to do the problem-based work. Then they have the virtual collaboration phase, and then they have the project seminar, which is starting with a presentation and feedback session on Monday, and which is on the last day finishing with presentation and exams. One of the things that we're doing both in the midway seminar and in the project seminar is actually to teach the student presentation skills, and we are bringing video equipment and video filming and commenting and training pitch talks and so on, both because it's something that we feel the students really like and they tell us they like it, and because it's very useful for them in the exam. And for some of the students, it's really the first time they have to present this kind of work for quite a large audience of all the other students in a foreign language, in an exam situation. So yeah, we try to support that part as well. So yeah, midway seminar start working on the problems. Then we have the project work and the virtual collaboration, and the students here look quite happy. My impression is actually that during the last 2 years, this has been working better and better, also because the tools have become better and more stable. There is a project seminar with finishing the projects, and then the presentation and exam. And I think here the students are presenting the project. So that's the first part. And then after that, there is the questioning session. Yeah, just to sum up again. So what's happening is we have the virtual kickoff, then working on the modules. then the midway seminar where they meet physically, and then we have the project work and the virtual collaboration and the project seminar to finish it off. And in between this, we also have a lot of other intermediate deadlines. For example, for when to finish introductory parts, when to do the basic parts, when to do the advanced part, and especially the peer assignments is something that we need to be a bit more careful about, because there has to be precise deadlines when to submit and when to submit the review of the work of the other students. So just a short presentation of the results from the first two years. And I've cut a bit here because of the time, so I'm only presenting the results from the students. So we asked the students, to what extent do the teaching methods used in Colibri increase the quality of the learning offer? And we see that the students in general liked it, and also that we managed to increase the perceived quality from the first year to the second year. We asked them if it increased the relevance of the learning offer. And again, we see here that most students actually appreciate the relevance of what we're doing. And we also see an increase from the first to the second year. And if it's to what extent the teaching methods increase the labor market relevance, it's also good scores. And they are also a little bit better in year 2 than in the first year. To what extent do you think the teaching methods used in Colibri will help you in your further studies? And actually, we see again, I think the results even from the first year were quite nice, but we see even better results from the second year. And then there are some questions about the personal impact, which is also quite high. So will you be more prepared for the national labor market? Then we asked also about the international labor market, and this is very convincing results. But it's not surprising, because the students get to work during the projects in a very international context. So takeaway messages from the first 2 years, and I've also, during the presentation, I've also said a little bit about the messages from the third year, but we don't really have the statistics collected yet. So, but it's clear that what the students value is really the international, cross-disciplinary and problem-based approach, not only from the results you saw here, but also from the evaluation of the project and project work and the modules. So this is by many of the students seen as the most valuable aspect of Colibri. And we also see that in the rating of the personal outcome, where we got very high scores in this preparedness for the international labor market. We also can say that the students really liked the course, and again, especially they liked that they got to work in international groups and on real world problems. And we think that the modules generally worked well, especially this mix of videos and quizzes were working well. It was very, very nice that we implemented this progression tracking. I will show it to you in a minute, what it looks like, that we have more individualized setups. So in the second year, the students could only see the modules they actually chose to work on, whereas in the first year, they could see everything, which made it very difficult for them to figure out what they had to do. And that was, of course, in the second year also supported, because we tried to be very clear in the formulation and task, and having clear conditions for finalizing each module. So that's why we had the final quiz for each module, so the student would kind of know when, okay, now I'm done with this part. We also think that peer learning is a good idea, but it really needs clear instruction and guidelines. So it's not just asking the students to organize something or just ask them to comment something. We have to be very, very precise in the instructions and guidelines that we give them. One more to highlight here, I would say that the video training and presentation training was very important. And then I think it's important that we demonstrate the relationship between the modules and the projects, because it's not always so easy for the students to see how this is linked. So the way we have done it in the last year of the project is that for each project proposals, we have actually highlighted which modules are relevant here, and we have been discussing how to do this also when we formed the project proposals, and also when we designed the modules. So we will see that in many of the modules, there are tasks which are related to the project, or there are tasks where the students are asked to do something specifically related to the project they have chosen. In the third year, what we have been working on is that we have tried to improve the peer learning, and we have tried to improve the relationship between modules and projects, or at least to make this relationship more visible for the students. And we have also been working more on the individual learning path. As a bonus to end the presentation here, because I know that you are working, as I understand it, with different learning platforms, I will just show a bit of what we have been doing and tell a bit about our experiences. So first of all, we have been able to improve Moodle, so we had a nicer look and feel, and you can see we have these bootstrap elements, which means that you can actually drop down and see only what you want to see. So it's kind of gives a better overview in each module or in each course than before. And here you see how we are actually presenting the workload of, I think this is a basic module. Then we are using completion tracking, and we tried also to use this restricted access. So with completion tracking, for example, when the students have been finishing a quiz with satisfactory results, they will get a cross here, or when they have been watching a video to the end, they will also get a cross. You can always discuss when something should be completed, and I think for the quizzes, it's quite intuitive that when you have done the quiz with a satisfactory result, then you can also say to have passed it. Whereas when you can download a presentation, how do you say that you have finished that? Or watching a video, because it's easy just to watch a video to the end when you're doing something else, so it doesn't mean that you actually learn something. And we have been experimenting both with self-marking, so the students had to do it themselves, and by automatic marking. And again, for some activities it makes more sense than others, but in any case the students liked it because it's easy for them to keep track on what they have been doing and what they are missing to do. Then what is meant by restricted access is, for example, I can say that quiz number 8 is not available unless quiz number 7 is marked as complete. So in this way you also ensure that the students are taking things in the right order. And with some of the components, some elements like videos and quizzes, it works quite well. If you have more advanced activities, for example, that you have activities that need some manual grading or a manual commenting, for example, an assignment where you're giving feedback to the students, then it might, depending on how you define completeness, you might stop the student in his progression. For example, if you want to grade it and the student must receive a grade before it's marked as completed, well, then he has to wait for you until he can continue his work. So the confession here is that in many cases we ended up losing up on these restrictions after all. Even though the idea is nice, it really needs some consideration to use. We used the plugin which is called H5P, and it's implemented, for example, in the Aalborg University Moodle now. And what it does is that it makes it possible to pop up. So the video here is just a video which is running on YouTube, and then we add a layer on top of that. So when you see the video on YouTube, it's just a normal video, but when you see the video through Moodle, then when you get to the point, I don't know if you can see it, there is a red dot here or pink dot here. And when you get to that point in time, this quiz will pop up and you have to mark the correct answers. Here you are allowed to give more answers. Check. And once you have done it correctly, then you can continue watching the video. It's quite nice because you're staying in the same window and you just make the students active for a few seconds, and then you can continue watching the video. On the other hand, the kind of questions you can ask here is more limited than it is in Moodle, and you don't collect the data in the same way as if you do it in Moodle. And you cannot, for example, this about using completion tracking, you cannot use that when you're using H5P, at least not to the same extent. But H5P is really, I think, a strong tool for making interactive contents, and what we played with here worked quite nicely. Then we have these peer assignments, and I would say that they are more challenging. It's more challenging for the teachers to set it up. I confess that here during the last year, where we had been focusing more on the peer activities, we had been training how to set it up during the teacher training seminar, and all of us failed in getting it right the first time. So some forgot to go to the submission phase. Some actually managed the submission phase and the assessment phase, but forgot that there was a manual process in going to the evaluation phase. So the students eventually didn't get the completed mark, and also they couldn't see the result from their peers in the assessment phase because they were only released here at the end. So I would say that I don't think the user interface here is so intuitive, and you really need to work together with your students in order to get it right. And also the deadlines were challenging for the students, and if you have just one student who don't meet the deadline, then you need to rethink how you go about it continuing to the next phase. So basically, if you are distributing the assignments for peer reviews and there is one student missing, what do you do with that one person? And if there are two students missing, you need manually to handle it so they can review each other's. So it's a bit more challenging, and it requires more synchronization. In the first 2 years, we were using AAU Moodle for all the academic content, and then we were using Facebook for the rest. Here in the last year, we're introducing the Hub platform to replace Facebook, and also to replace, for example, the forums in Moodle, because they were not very much used by the students, and we felt that it was hard to encourage the students to use it. And then we have the technical challenge that because it was the AAU Moodle, then all emails with notifications would go to AAU email addresses that not all students check so often. And in HumHub we can do that with the personal email accounts of the students. And also because it's a more Facebook-like interface, we were hoping that there would be more interaction, and there has been more interaction. On the other hand, using Facebook also has a big advantage because everyone is using it. People are checking it all the time, have it in all their devices. And so in that sense, HumHub feels a little less responsive than when doing communication on Facebook. But I think it's a nice platform because it's a professional environment, because we have control of where the data are stored, and the students are still quite happy about using it. So that was my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And now I will be available for chat. I hope you have some questions. And when you are seeing this, I will be sitting in a flight 12 kilometers above the ground. So I hope you will be able to get through to me on the WhatsApp chat. If you have any questions or comments about the course, you are most welcome to contact me, and you are most welcome to check out our website, which is Erasmus colibri.eu. So thank you so much.